Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Breast Cancer Podcast. Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Deepa Halaharvi, a fellowship trained breast surgeon, and also happen to be a breast cancer survivor, thriver, and a warrior, living my best life. As you know, breast cancer affects millions worldwide, touching lives in a profound ways. Whether you're someone facing a diagnosis or a supporter seeking information or just eager to learn more, this podcast aims to be a beacon of understanding, hope, and empowerment. I'm here to talk about all things breast cancer, from surgery to survivorship, as well as high risk for breast cancer to metastatic breast cancer. My goal is to provide you with reliable information, share inspiring narratives, and foster a supportive community. I know firsthand the challenges breast cancer diagnosis brings. Throughout this podcast, I will give you strategies to handle difficulties that arise from cancer diagnosis. We'll have insightful conversations with medical experts, researchers, survivors, caregivers, and advocates. I will tackle topics that impact our lives as cancer survivors. My goal is to educate you and empower you to live your best life. I definitely have. Well, let's get started. I'm not Mark Cripe. I'm Deepa Halaharvi.
I am Mark Knight. I'm
There
glad
you
you're
go.
not. That's
Yeah.
great. The one thing that I like to focus on a lot is prevention.
Yes.
And when somebody comes in that they're either high risk or they have a genetic mutation, or obviously both, is talking about risk reduction. So that's something that I try to focus on. Certain things you can't change. So when you start your period, or when you have a baby, we're not going to go tell people to go hurry up and get pregnant. That's something I try to say, okay, we're not going to try to modify that because there's already enough pressure in the world of getting married or having a baby, whatever. Certain things you can change that are a little bit easier, which is working out, exercising half an hour a day, 5 days a week. We talk about that from a cardiac, so a heart health standpoint, from a breast cancer risk reduction, even from a colon cancer and obesity. Like there's all of these different disease processes that everybody says essentially exercising half an hour a day, 5 days a week, also maintaining the ideal body weight. So we talked about obesity, and that's something that is rampant across really the globe, here in America for sure.
Yeah.
But just making good choices at the grocery store when you go to the grocery store, limiting some of the meat products. So beef, chicken, pork, all inherently have some hormones in them. And so trying to do more fish, trying to do more vegetables. And it doesn't mean that you're cutting out everything. It's just all things in moderation. Same thing from an alcohol standpoint, or tobacco, trying to make sure you're not smoking, limiting alcohol. And that's going to be healthy. And I had one statistician talk about doing those lifestyle modifications, decreasing the insulin resistance, can cut your risk of getting a breast cancer potentially in half, depending if you're already overweight or sedentary lifestyle. So really trying to focus the patients on how do you become healthy. Part of that is not getting cancer or treating a cancer early, but how do you get healthy, and then how do you stay healthy? And that's going to lower risk for a lot of these different malignancies that are elevated risk, definitely if you have a genetic mutation, but it's never 100%. So let's be healthy, and then screening. So we talked about MRI. We didn't talk about self-examination. That's something I think that also gets kind of scooped over. We run over that a little bit, and we say, okay, just come in, twice a year. It's like, well, the patient, if they're doing a good exam, so teaching the patient, how are we doing exam? What are we looking for? They're doing their exam hopefully once a month. Some people like every day in the shower, and just make sure they know what they're looking for. So if they do feel something that's abnormal, they see the skin puckering, they notice the nipples kind of pulling in. Those are things too to come in between those interval cancers where there's going to be a change every 6 months. We're seeing them, they're seeing themselves every day. If there's a change, come in earlier, because we really want to identify those patients and high risk for prevention, but then also early treatment, because as you kind of talk about, somebody gets a cancer, well, now we have to do a cancer treatment.
Right.
And if we can prevent chemotherapy, if we can prevent needing endocrine therapy, or if we can find them in an earlier size, earlier stage, potentially they won't need some of those chemotherapies and different treatments. But the number of things that we do as physicians are going to have some harm.
Yeah.
And I'd love to just prevent cancer. That would be the great thing.
Yeah. So you're a good doctor, because I know as surgeons, you're welcome. And he's not paying me to say this, by the way, but I think our goal is to, I mean, we love to operate, obviously, but if we can give you the information to educate yourself, empower yourself so you can advocate for yourself, what things you can do that's in your control. And so in life, we don't have control as much as we think, but there are certain things we can do. Exercising is, absolutely, I think it's a must for people. And I've always thought of America as having an obesity problem. I recently read a book by Dr. Gabrielle Lyons. I'm trying to get her on my podcast here. If you're listening, Dr. Lyons, please come on my podcast to talk to people about muscle. So she talks all about muscle strength. It's not so much we have too much fat. It's like we just don't have enough muscle. And she talks about the pathophysiology of muscle and how it helps with insulin resistance, inflammation. A lot of the diseases, cancers, is that, cause is inflammation in the body. So how could you decrease the inflammation? Dementia, what's the problem? Inflammation. And how actually working out, how the muscle, building muscle, you develop what is called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That's actually, it's good for neurogenesis, meaning forming new neural connections in your brain, supposed to decrease the risk of developing dementia, Alzheimer's. It's now called diabetes type 3. And so it's excess sugar, inflammation in our body. And one of the ways to decrease that's totally in our control, is working out. And I've been asking on this podcast for all my guests and experts as to what you do to take care of yourself.
Some of us get a little crazy. So I think, and the challenge is when we're talking to people that write books, or for us as physicians, sometimes we're on a little bit of the crazy spectrum of what we do. So I do think we need to practice what we preach. I don't think that you need to go out and run a marathon. I don't think you need to do an ultra marathon and do 100-mile run. I think for people that want to get active, depends what gets you out the door.
Yeah.
Or depends what gets you to your own weight room. Depends what gets you to your basement or your living room where you're working out. For me, I'm very goal oriented. And so I have to have a carrot at the end to train for. So I like to train for marathons, or I've done a couple Ironman, but that's just the way that gets me out of bed in the morning. For some people, it's like, okay, I've never exercised before. What could I do reasonably? They do a number of 1-mile walks or runs. They do a number of 5Ks. And so if you say, okay, man, I could never do 3 miles. You can.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to get out the door. And so you put one foot in front of the other foot, and then eventually over time, and it might take a year, might take 2 years, might take 3 years, you can do a 5K. But it's just getting out there and walking and moving. And then you find, okay, I can do this. And then you go to the next step. And so then maybe either, okay, I'm going to do a 5K and I'm going to do a little faster. Or some people move up to a 5 miles after the 5K. But I think to your point, we forget about the muscle mass. And so it's really lifting some weights, doing a little bit of cardio. And most of the studies say doing a 5K is better than doing a marathon. So I'm actually probably in the wrong in that point, because after a while, the overtraining gets unhealthy. It's just exercising half an hour a day, lifting some weights. For some people say, I can't lift weights. It's hard for me to get on the floor. Okay, there's seated yoga programs. And with COVID, now there's all these things online. You just type it in online, you can do seated yoga, and there's all these different programs out there, and it's working on your core, working on strength. And it might be a 2-pound weight you're lifting, but it's like, just keep moving. And then as that gets easier, now I'm going to go to a 3-pound weight. Now I'm going to maybe try to go in and do swimming or water aerobics, where it takes the buoyancy and takes all the weight off of your knees and hips. And now you can maybe do water aerobics. So it's just keep pushing yourself and get out the door.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really great point, Dr. Cripe. I think it can be overwhelming to listen to someone who runs marathons. Oh my gosh, do I have to run marathon? And as surgeons too, I think our training is, you want to go as fast as you can. You want to be the best at whatever you do. And so for me, I'll be very honest. I spent several years, if I'm not going to run a marathon, I want to be good at whatever I do. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. I think we need to kind of scale back in the way we think. Well, 10 minutes 3 times a day amounts to 30 minutes a day. And anyone can do that. And just, getting off the couch, couch to 5K, walking in your neighborhood. And the weightlifting, I'm really passionate about that, is because there's one thing we talk about longevity with, living as long as possible, but also living as long as possible with good health. as we get older, we need to be able to, if we fall down, we need to be able to get ourselves up, be able to sit down and get up. Those are all using different muscles in your body. And that's really important. If you want to be part of, life of your grandkids, you want to live, play with your grandkids and be healthy for your grandkids as we get older. That's something I think it's really important to think about. And there are things we can do. Yeah, absolutely. Moderation in alcohol and how much we eat and all. There is so much information now coming out about the microplastics in water bottles and the food coloring in all these cereals and processed food. And in America, I will say, and I'm guilty of this myself, is we go out to eat too much rather than cooking at home. And I really try with my kids to, as much as possible, to eat at home and cook at home and cook using fresh, vegetables and eat fresh, fruits. Going out to restaurants should be a treat in my mind, and we are coming, away from that, sadly. So I think
Man,
these are
is it
some basic
hard?
things.
Oh, it's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah,
And we want to say, man, I just worked 12 hours. I don't want to go
yeah,
home and cook. I don't want to go take the time. I'm just going to go out to eat. And I think for myself and for a number of us in America, we kind of look at comfort as the thing that we're trying to
yes,
achieve. Is let's get
yeah,
comfortable.
yeah,
And if I get enough money or I can go out to eat at the McDonald's. I can get enough money. I
yeah,
can do, and we probably, that's the wrong mindset.
yeah,
We need to not be comfortable. We need
yeah,
to get out of our comfort
yeah,
zone. And for all of us as people, patients, physicians, we all have our own personal experiences that then guide, why do I want to do a podcast? Why do
yeah,
I help other people? So I'll take one of my own personal experiences. I'm going to shout out to my mom. I've been a runner. I run in a number of running groups. What motivates me as a goal-oriented person is totally different. My mom loves to chat with people. My mom loves to have all these different communities where they talk. And I said, Mom, you would love running. She's like, I could never. I said, but you go out with these running groups and you talk to someone for like an hour or 2 hours and you just have like, oh, I'm like that community, you would
yeah,
love it. And so for her, I knew that that community would be amazing. And she said, okay, at age, I think around 65, maybe, she finally listened and said, okay, some of us are slow learners. Sorry, Mom. She went out and did some running groups, and it was a run walk group, and they have some just walk groups to do a 5K. She's like, oh my gosh, I love these. I love my coach. I love my mentor, they call him there. And I love all the ladies, and we have so much fun. We get together 2 times a week. That's not enough. We get together another time a week just so that we can get together and talk. But you're moving, you're
yeah,
walking, you're
yeah,
jogging, you're walk jogging, you all have different goals, but you have that community. And now at age 76, I think it was 69, she did her first half marathon. And at age 76, we're all getting together and she's going to do her second half marathon. So for someone who's not, sorry, Mom, not athletic, never really participated in sports in junior high, high school, was never an athlete that you would call an athlete, but has always been moving. We grew up on the farm and you're farming and you're doing different things and you're walking and you're trying to eat healthy and eat your own produce and had a huge garden. So a very healthy person, cleaning the house, hanging wallpaper, all of those are active things that she did, but she was never a runner, never what you'd say an athlete until age 64 or 65. And so anybody can do it. And so many patients come and say, well, I've never done, I can't do it. Like you can do it. It's just find what motivates you.
yeah,
Other people, silver sneakers, again, going to the
yeah,
Y and meeting their friends and they do water aerobics. My mother-in-law, love her. She's awesome, wonderful. My father-in-law says it's hard to get her to and from the Y because she just talks to every single person. She walks in and she talks to the lady who, punches your ticket. You get there and you
yeah,
do your half an hour water aerobics and
yeah,
you're there for an hour still talking to the lady. That's great. Find what motivates you. And then you want to go talk to your friends and, oh, exercise just happened too. So find what motivates
yeah.
you.
So that's a really great point. By the way, your mom is one of my heroes.
She's great.
I
She's
walked with
wonderful.
her. She, Mrs. Phyllis Cripe. I need to get her on my podcast as well. There's all these great people. She is absolutely my role model in the sense that I want to be that person running a half marathon, at that age. So I have to get her on the podcast here. I think you actually made a really great point about talking to people and having the community. What we are finding out, and some Surgeon General Vivek Krishnamurthy had released a statement saying that COVID has really impacted people in not having that social connection. We know that social isolation that started during COVID time is linked with heart disease, up to 25% higher risk of developing heart disease. And we didn't really know that during that time. I mean, I remember we were so stressed out. They were trying to keep each physician at home for 2 weeks at a stretch. not knowing whether we're going to live or not, if somebody dies, that physician would then replace the other physician. So we were in such a stressful time, and we were, drinking. I actually got my bartending license online and, making all these cocktails and all these things. And it really is not healthy. And we've forgotten the importance of having the social connections. And so Dr. Cripe makes such a great point in having that social networking, whether it's at the YMCA or at the gym or going in walk run club groups. I think besides exercising, you're also connecting with people.
Right.
It's really important. And I myself, I know I work long hours, 12, 14-hour days. And then on a Friday or Saturday, we have, plans with friends, and I'm tired, don't want to go. But when I make myself to go do these things with friends, it really energizes me. It makes me happy, and just so important to develop those social connections. And that's just as important as exercising.
And then if you put the two together, I think that's even great, where instead of going out with friends to eat, or going out with friends to drink, or going to the microbrewery, whatever, it's like, let's go with friends to exercise and do some healthier things. So it's really having that goal and purpose. Okay, I want to get healthier. How do I get there? And then what are the baby steps of getting there? And I'm going to take some people along with me. And we're all going to get healthy together, I think is a great thing. So just to make sure the high risk patient, I don't want you to hear that I'm only interested in surgery. I think the biggest thing is, yes, surgery is a component to risk reduction for a lot of women that are at high risk or have a genetic mutation. Yes, we can help prevent cancer. We think it's a 90% risk reduction, maybe up to a 95% risk reduction if we do a bilateral mastectomy. It's never perfect in this world. But also, if we can get people to exercise and maintain weight and all these other things, we're going to prevent a lot of cancers. And I think that's my bigger thing for those high risk patients. Let's do baby steps. Let's get you in, let's get you healthy, and let's keep following you. And then, God forbid, if a cancer does happen, or you get to the point where you're ready for a prophylactic surgery, we're there. And we're going to help take care of you every step of the way. Yeah, absolutely. I'll add two more things too. As we're talking about wellness, I'll add two more things. One is sleep. Sleep is extremely important. We're finding out. Come on. I know as surgeons, we always talk to each other like, did you sleep? Oh yeah, I slept 6 hours. And I know we are so used to getting up early. I'm an early riser myself. I get up around 4:30. I do exercising, meditation, prayer, and journaling and those type of things. But it's really important to get, they recommend about 8 hours of sleep per night. And then the second thing I will say is sunlight. It's really important to expose yourself to sunlight, especially first thing in the morning. And we both leave to work when it's dark. We come back when it's dark. So unfortunately, during the weekdays, it's tough, but I really do make it a point. Yesterday, I went and ran 5 miles, and there was no sun, but at least I was outside getting fresh air. What are bright lights? You got me that light that I use. So when I'm sitting at home and it's kind of a darker room, and we live in Ohio, which is usually gray. And so having the bright lights also are very helpful in stimulating you and getting you awake. So I think those are all great points for health. I hope you all got some good tips from this episode. And, it's not always the surgery we're interested in. We want you to get better. We want you to take care of yourself. We want to educate you, again, empower you so you can advocate for yourself and take some control back in your life. And thank you so much for tuning in today, and wherever you are, whatever country you're in, thank you for taking the time. And if you really like this podcast, please share it with others and give us a good 5-star rating. And I love getting the comments. Just yesterday, I got a comment from a gal that lives in Toronto, Canada, and she said this was a life-changing podcast for her, as she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I love hearing those things. We do this for free. We don't get paid for it, but we get a lot of joy and a lot of gratification for doing it. So thank you all so much. Great. Until next time. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Breast Cancer Podcast. Remember, you're not alone in this fight. I encourage you to be an active part of this podcast. Please share your stories, questions, and suggestions for future topics at my website called drdeepahalaharvi.com. And please share this podcast with others, especially if you found it useful. And please also give it a 5-star rating, if you will. Stay connected as we navigate the complexities of breast cancer. Until next time, take care and keep shining brightly. Disclaimer: this podcast is not intended for complete medical advice, so please talk to your medical professionals.